back, everybody, and hello to our audience on Zoom. Before I introduce our featured poets, please remember that we are inviting both our live and our live streamed audiences to write poems in response to the poetry of this season's featured readers. And then the call for submissions will go out in 2025, and we'll be selecting poetry for our forthcoming anthology of response poems. You can read about it on our website. It's the top page that you can choose. And if you're not a newsletter subscriber, please go to planetearthpoetry.com and sign up so you can stay in the loop and not miss out. The other thing I need to tell you is that on Sunday, Derek, is it Sunday? Derek is offering a community writing practice, and it's free to everybody, and it's on Zoom. So if you know anybody anywhere in the world who wants to take a writing practice class for an hour, they can join via the Zoom link on our homepage. And Derek has set out a list of instructions, which I think is too long to read right now, but it's really exciting and cool. But they're on our Instagram, our Facebook, and in our newsletter that will go out on Monday. So no, they were in our newsletter that went out on Monday. So anyway, they're there. And now I would like to introduce our two fabulous poets. We'll start with Steve Noyes. Steve has published many collections of poetry: Small Data, Rainbow Stage, Manchuria, Morbidity and Ornament, and Ghost Country, among others. His poems have appeared in many magazines in the UK and Canada, and he's also the author of two novels, November's Radio and It Is Just That Your House Is So Far Away. Isn't that a great title? He's just returned from England, where he completed his PhD. Pretty impressive. And he's originally from Winnipeg, but he's now living on Vancouver Island, so hopefully we'll see more of him. Yes? Thumbs up. Okay, please welcome Steve Noyes.
Thank you for having me. Okay, we're all dying to say it, so why don't we, get it over with. They're eating the dogs and they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. Okay, I'm glad we got that out of our system. I did just move back to Vancouver Island in Victoria, the home of the Lekwim people. For me, that means living in Esquimalt again. And I wrote this poem called Mars because a long time ago I came across something in Sax Point Park. And Miranda, you were just a wee kid then. So it's called Mars. Low in the southern sky, a coppery glint. Mars, planet of war. Across that distance, a memory sifts in of the Juan de Fuca Strait on a still evening when an aircraft carrier, the Ronald Reagan, half a mile long, slate gray, was sent by the Empire to demonstrate its deathly reach. And the local serfs, though nominally of another state, brought their families to picnic within sight of the Empire's instrument, to hold hands with their kids, to heft their babies, eat hot dogs and popcorn, as though that carrier of missiles and superior armament had made them merrier and somehow safe. I was sad because they chose to celebrate war itself, whose tiny reddish messenger intensified as the sun declined behind the Souk Hills. Because the danger they would wish on distant families, the volcanic booms and lacerating shrapnel, so easily dispensed by this slate gray ship, bristling with guns and neatly parked planes, seemed to them so far away. Impossible, they thought, for it to seriously appear in their land. Perhaps they were even aware of a future complacent thrill when, swilling beer, they would tell their grandkids about a time before war was general everywhere. So, as I continue to explore cheerfulness, I'm going to read from the conveyor. I don't know, the first twinge of the conveyor occurred to me when the pandemic started and we started seeing these images of all these empty airports, right? And you know, the conveyor is about the journey, you know, we've all been on. You were there. I know you were there. I've seen you more than once, you know. What the hell were you doing there anyway? So the thing is, we were all on this trip, and for a long time we thought that the trip would never end and that there wasn't a price to the trip. Okay. Welcome to the conveyor. Oh, there's an epigraph to this. It's Margaret Yersinar's wonderful quote. We are not the first to look upon an inexorable future. Welcome to the conveyor. You have come from one port of the earth to this one, bearing a hand-sized proof of an elsewhere that admits to you. A while ago, breathing the same recycled air, you saw 2 rows ahead, a traveler select from brands offer their card. Who were you to nod? Up went your hand. Now you clutch the duty-free bag, glide through the vaulted cavern of travel land. Oh no, it seems you've accidentally slipped into the past, the granted easily taken. For you haven't quite arrived. You drift through this perpetual vacation museum where the strongest memories persist. You're like a Solon remotely sent to inspect a reduced transport sector. These days of vector and pestilence, you must rely on messed up, medlied senses, the jumbled voices of your fellow travelers. A parallel conveyor runs beside you, others on their other trips. It is an illusion. All falter the same way. The delusion of difference will fade. Muzak faintly playing, shrewdly chosen to sway the mind, conveys your incubated youth, reheated from frozen, the time signature of your latest escapade. A citizen of nowhere, the mere transmission of a global server. Oh, fortunate masked renegade. Cold air from an open jetway reminds you of the smell of hot chocolate, Christmas holidays, the travelers in parkas, pom-pom toques, the babble in the regional terminal, the awesome guy, the amazing girl they started dating this fall term, grandparents conquering a lifetime fear of planes, leaning on their walkers and their canes, showing a stranger a baby's picture. The wrapped corners of presents poked from backpacks, warm bodies milling, festive atmosphere, a background carol's tinkling charm, at once both quaint and indistinct, the chilliest evening of the year. The memory evaporates. Flights have stopped. An external monster has gone off its feed and left you on the tread's endless strop, the glittering shelves of merchandise, no one to overtake, no one to fall behind, no raison d'etre, vacated space, figuring ground at a steady speed beneath the broken geodesic panes and trusses hanging in linked isosceles triangles, a whole arcade caved in. Still, on you slide, past the space posters of the comely young, slaves who shill for long-gone corporations, in connubial states of near undress, their beautiful raiment, decanters of perfume, jewels resting in their cleavage, accenting their ears, models no longer forking technicolor meals or lifting drinks from coasters, the thrill of fading printouts of card purchases. You've been treadmilling a long time. Surely this kiosk selling stuffed animals, or that one, keychains and fridge magnets, is the same one you already passed and then forgot. That fellow in line for coffee, isn't his meaningful look some sort of previously arranged signal? Don't those shining aisles of paperbacks, celebrity memoirs, harlequins, true crime, trigger another swoon of deja vu? Or does it mean your whole experience is nothing new? A blasé sensibility combined with sheer fatigue has blunted your journey's purpose to arrange a tryst, visit your distant relatives, extend supply chains, bucket list. And yet you are too tired to turn back and investigate this hypothesis of eternal return. Your suspicion that this pair of pilots in their caps is like a record's hissing skip is whimsical, not a true likeness. You gamely press on because you lack the gumption to retrace. You fear discovering there is no superior epiphany back there. Or worse, a severe negation, the erasure that consubstantial beings must never face. Now, if you're having troubles with your own journey, I found this in my bag tonight. It is a quick connect yellow card. You please keep this card until your boarding pass has been scanned by a YVR ambassador. Okay, so come up to me after the reading if you need it. The YVR ambassador just takes you away, and and then it's Soylent Green or whatever. It's all there. It's pretty good, really good. Yeah. Okay. So I may get back to the conveyor, but it's too cheerful. I'm going to read something else. I came across an old man in Crater, Missouri, once upon a time, and he was a glass blower. And it was sort of the heart of America that was obviously falling apart. The place he was blowing glass was called Crater, Missouri. And people would go, yeah, well, you should have seen the place before the asteroid. Okay, maybe I'll just read the poem. Glass blower. The bell dings and he looks up from the hissing flame, not quite making out the customers. Hey, you guys, do you want to come in and listen to some poetry? That'll scare him off. That's not crystal meth or something. Go away. Okay. Glass blower. The bell dings. He looks up from the hissing flame, not quite making out the customers. He tweezes the thin metal straw, channeling his breath from his lungs' elastic stream into the reddened vesicles of a cardinal's wing, which will, in time, join the other glass birds tinkling from the wire bonsai. He pushes up his visor automatically to croak, "Howdy, y'all come in." The molten cardinal cools down some. "This is Main Street America." Immediately, one sees that his store has absorbed all the others in this empty town of padlocked doors and taped up foreclosures. Bins of dated books on macrame, wood burning, burls, applique kits from when folks knew how to craft. In the back, he's got the taffeta, organdy, and fake silk gowns, hand-me-downs for the graduate girls, county-wide and farther round. He once knew all the other shopkeepers in town. And hell, he helped them out all he could, and then he bought them out. It ain't his fault. He is a permanent curio at the county auctions, with his string tie hanging from his Adam's apple. The customers browse and leave. At the flames hiss, the glass cardinal distends in pipettes of crimson drool, and the day passes with Mr. Main Street America, with this most difficult crested bird. Do you have time for one more?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. So now in Springfield, the town Springfield actually occurs in this poem. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not, anyway, why bother to explain yourself, right? This poem is called Roofline. Among the shapes come down to us from the modern medieval period is the stylized and elongated hypotenuse of the Roofline Corporation's logo, its extension at every Springfield crossroad. Statistics is the description of abscissae. The mums and pops up and close shop rather than confront the roofline juggernaut. They retired to aircon and powdered iced tea. Their youngsters only starting to climb Mount Credit. At first, there was a furious burgeoning as trucks brought all that was desired, 18 after 18-wheeler, under the friendly roofline, earth-coated fungibles came from factories on jungle fridges, from docks blue with the effusions of two-stroke motors. Aisles of the riveted, the crimped and heat-sealed, and Springfielders ka-chinged their barbecues and fish tank-sized TVs until this zenith tip towards investor pessimism, layoffs, until there were only a few jobs left, poorly paid. Remaining roofline staff dealt with a narrower community until glass smashed under the abscissa. And we, the people, carted off the cases of KD, the cappuccino makers, strong demand curve. And roofline came to echo in the rust-in snow of swing sets and handsaws that came to clutter Springfield's garages and backyards in the apron with the boom and doom roofline, folded for years in a drawer. After the math, moved on to newer markets. in the pioneering way. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Steve. Wow. Oh, it says that my Zoom is being transcribed. How?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Okay. That's incredible. Thank you. Thank you very much. And yeah, let's just give Steve another round of applause. That was amazing. Okay, so Derek Webster's National Animal is published by Vehicle Press. And oh my goodness, does he have a good blurb from, darn, the name just like left my mind.
Jim Johnson.
Oh, Jim Johnson's blurb, yeah, wild, amazing. It's a lot to live up for, a lot to live up to when you get up here. His first book, Mockingbird, was a finalist for the Gerald Lampert Award for the Best Poetry Debut Book in Canada. That's the League of Canadian Poets Award, right? And Derek received his MFA from Washington University in St. Louis. And he was also the founder of the award-winning arts magazine, which many of you have, I'm sure, heard of or even been published in, Maisonneuve. Did I say that right? Oh, yes. Derek lives in Montreal and Toronto, and he's come all the way here to read for us. Please welcome Derek.
Some water here.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for having me here in Victoria. Thank you, Karen, for organizing this series. This series, just in my opinion, is better run than almost any other series that I've read at. So I think you guys have got a good thing going here. Yeah. And thanks, Steve. And all the open mic readers. When we do poetry readings, we're obviously reading our own things, but we're joining with everyone else. There's this community aspect of it that's very important. That's one thing I really love about poetry readings. It doesn't matter if you screw up, doesn't matter if you give a terrible introduction to your own work. Sometimes this happens. You're still reading your stuff, and everybody kind of understands. So I'm going to read from my two books. The first one here, Mockingbird. I'll read from that first, a couple of pieces, and then I'll read from National Animal after that. So here I'll just jump right in. Yeah. So this first piece is called A Country Tale. And it's a short piece. A Country Tale. One night, my great-grandfather got lost in a storm between the barn and the house. The mountain snow snuffed the light. He turned back to the barn, not 50 yards behind him uphill, and slept the night between cows. In the morning, he crunched home and made plans to sell the house, the barn, and all the rest. His wife didn't say a word. It was war. There was no help. They moved on. This is called Pelicans. Don't fool yourself. You don't know anything about birds. So you've seen a documentary, skimmed a book. You can tell a robin from a chickadee. You've stared across canyons, been pushed off a fence, so you can guess what soaring is, falling in reverse. But have you ever looked at a pelican? Their beauty is folded awkwardness, red, lidless eyes. Their mouths baggy as inflatable pants. Their webbed feet push the brakes midair like a cartoon duck. They're not cormorants. These are not sleek arrow hunters. They wheel above the surf and drop like a stack of 20 pancakes, gulping at foam and fish, then struggle to take off again. Drying out on shore, they wonder what they've done to deserve such graceful wings. You should wish to be so brainless, inefficient, beautiful. You drove through a flock of them once on your way to catch a plane. Flying alone, no longer among them, you've returned to knowing nothing about birds or who you are. Just eyeing other people, wondering what you've done to deserve this life. You're only one. One of our open mic readers had a wonderful poem about loons that I also mentioned flying in planes afterwards. I think that's probably there's probably something there. It's interesting. So that's Mockingbird. And just for those who are online who can't see so well, I think Karen asked me to describe the cover. It's a coat hanger on a black background, and it looks a little bit bird-like, I suppose you could say. The paper is torn off, and I've never known at the bottom, the designer never gave me an answer if it's just the paper that's half hanging off like a broken wing, or if it's resting on something like a coffin in the dark. It's hard to tell. You know, book designers don't give you all the answers you want. So that's Mockingbird.
David Drummond, by the way.
Yes, that was. Yeah. And he also designed this one here, National Animal, which is equally enigmatic. But this time I kind of got in line with him and called the book National Animal. And as you can see, the cover, the title is a bit enigmatic. The cover is enigmatic. It's a type of animal, but it has kind of moose antlers, possibly wings. There's things flying off of it. The color is very strange, a kind of tinfoil. So that's what a good book cover can do, I think. And I'll just start right away by reading the first poem, National Animal. National Animal. Amid mud-hardened branches, it hates whatever once kept it greasy and warm. Its formaldehydian psyche, half duck, adrift in this foreign home. It chews up the book of what it was, then finds on the next page, enraged, its story keeps going. This is Jerusalem. The crowned lady on the wall smiles. Winter or summer, it trembles, gnawing on itself, surviving on its wiles. Yeah. So this book, when I sometimes try to describe like my own passage from between one book to the next, I sometimes feel that the first book I wrote was very personal, a little darker. And I found after doing that, I wanted to speak in a voice that was just a little more public and more engaged with concerns that were beyond myself, I suppose. And as we all know, the last, well, I'm not even sure when, but the last decade or so in Canada, there's been a real reckoning with who we are, what sins we've inherited, I suppose you could say, and what we are doing about it or not doing about it. And of course, I feel, of course, with the Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, that we have learned a lot from that, and that if these are things you care about, then you're probably going through a type of truth and reconciliation in your own mind, in your own way, almost every day, because there's been so much terrible news about what's been done in our name. And yet we still live here. we still, in various ways, love the place we live. So we have to come to terms with those things, obviously. And so in some ways, this book is my version of trying to come to terms with those things. Yeah, I'll read, there's a poem, I'll get to more to that later, you know, that's, but there's a poem I'm gonna read called Kitsune first because the whole concept of animals fascinates me. You know, I've always loved animal poems, whether it's Elizabeth Bishop and The Moose. It's a beautiful, beautiful poem. Elizabeth Bishop grew up, of course, in Nova Scotia before she went down and joined her American relatives and became an American poet. But if you've spent time in the Maritimes and when you read her work there, you recognize suddenly the vast drawing of character from that region that her work is full of. In fact, I'll tell you one little story before I carry on with this poem. In that poem, The Moose, she talks about people sitting on the bus and an uptake of breath when they're talking to each other, where they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's their way of just agreeing as they're talking, of course. And I remember when I was young, I was like, what is that? No one does that. What is she talking about? I don't think she's described that very well. And then I, of course, went out there more recently, maybe in the last 10 years, and maybe I'm a little older, I noticed things a little better. And suddenly there it was. And then after that, I suddenly realized my own mother-in-law does that. And I realized, God, you know, there's a lot to pay attention to that you miss along the way. And poems that you love in one age, years can pass and you read it again and it keeps giving you more. So if poems are shapeshifters, then so are animals. And this is a poem called Kitsune, which is the Japanese word for a fox, but it's also the word for the magical shape-shifting animal, the fox. This is Kitsune. The fox hesitates at glassy presences. At this somber angle retreats, cocks his heavy, hungry head at cyanide morsels. Am I here? A high cyclopean being answers the soft question, flexing itself alive as the new door hardens to a mirror and an image runs off reversed. He leans into it. The old heaviness slides open with a whoosh. Over eggshells, he takes a cold shape, voiceless whistle landing in folds of inner ear. Dawn pushes outward. Shift workers wake. This is a poem called Ravens. Painful to be so close to their stately, scared presence. Their language unknown to me, they with no consciousness of me or mine. I, like most poets, like Klein, a continuation of lake and pine. Yeah. So I'm going to read a few more pieces. But the one I'm going to read, this next piece is probably at the heart of the book. It's called Dominion. We don't use that word for the country as much as we used to, but of course, we still know that's sort of the country we're in. And this poem began as probably an exercise in a workshop. It has 11 parts. They're all short, so don't worry, we'll get there. Some of you may know Wallace Stevens' poem, 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird. It's a fine piece. And so this poem sort of began as a type of imitation of that, but it moved quickly from being the type of sort of aesthetic, philosophical investigation that Wallace Stevens performs in that piece into something probably more to do with sort of where we're at as Canadians, I suppose. And it's got a bit of a historical aspect. And hopefully some humor too. Dominion. 1. At the cabin door, spring wavers. Undressing, sighing. Seal mitts, great coat, beaver hat. The gaunt figure unwound, the tartan scarf, revealing a face. 2. Birches creak and deer bark and other alarms. They come wrapped in rabbit hoods with spears. Others come wrapped in sheep's wool and Christian fervor. In their ordinary desperation, they know why, not what, they are accepting. 3. Were you welcomed at the gate by elders? How was your seat? What of the windows of your soul? Were you given a choice of language and or beverage? English, French, soft pretzels, Cree? From your prolonged exposure to Canada, would you recommend it for headaches, coughing, sneezing, dry throat? Clickety go the racks, clack go the keys. 4. The crowd gathers. I deny knowing this place. Don Cherry crows 3 times. When the ice melts, Canada and I reemerge, arms locked like wrestlers in frozen embrace. The headline in the Mail and Empire screams, 2 bodies found in alley. Their faces are so familiar, says a bystander, yet I can't say I truly recognize either. 5. Our canoe keeps sinking. Something inside remains too heavy, flowing in and out when seasons change, escaping all our frantic bailing. Who stands vigilant on the shore? What animal calls from the ripening wheat? 6. Drive by your old life. The hills produce shadows the future buries, and the birds sing oblivion, estranged from all things, as you follow an Abenaki trail through ghostly, thin-rumped horses, past the gray-green forgotten monuments, mottled by pigeons, imperial in their silence. 7. Northern fields depend upon blackened snow, the mud glistening with ice, meltwater, beside a fawn's skeleton. 8. Looking out the window, I catch my higher self smiling in the street below. I shout, "Hey!" then hurry down to meet. He is gone. I'm still waiting, here on my window ledge, waving my government money as the radio speaks of rain. I think of my friends and miss many. 9. Dove gray on blue, a canoe turns back over. Maple syrup, jam, a rubber sheet bobbing underneath. Across the colored quilt of lakes, a breeze floats down the cliff's cooling face. Tom Thompson, let my quiet art contain your true weather. 10. Between the highways' cut faces of rock, my mother sings along to saccharine songs, looking back over the car seat, now and then smiling down. Miss Canada, knows how to draw a protest, a grudging laugh from little me. And in that moment, a grain slips into the heart's cage, starts to itch and to lacquer itself, and as a compromise, produces beauty. 11. Let the spell of 11. Let the spell of unspoken be broken. Let the spoken be acted upon. Rightness cannot be inherited. If you want it, you must obtain it by great labor. Dominion, help us love you for new reasons. Thank you. So now you've had the fire and brimstone speech. We'll be moving on to the crumpets and comedy part of the evening. This is a poem called Homemade Blueberry Wine. Some of you may know Al Purdy and his work and all this. So this is, I sort of think of this a little bit as sort of my Al Purdy poem, I suppose. Homemade Blueberry Wine. My friend, don't ask me to pretend, now you've made me drink this stuff, that it's amazing, wow, or even surprisingly good. Let's be honest, your grog is a gut punch to the kisser. I never knew wine could be meaty, sour, and evocative of cake, all at the same time. Let's order a pizza and pour your shark piss into a large punch bowl. It may still make a passable sangria. And now we've downed the whole bowl, laughing as we eat the alcohol-soaked oranges and using the pizza crusts like edible fishing rods. It's time to become philosophers. No more complaining about our empty bank accounts, air guitaring on the coffee table. No whining about the white-collar salt mines or how our quiet, manly tears go unrecognized. No, it's time to pardon the turkey. Let's be honest. This is the greatest wine known to man. I'm feeling more virile than a decorated veteran who's just won Stanley with a Game 7 overtime out of his jockstrap goalie deking goal. Okay, calm down or your new dog is gonna lose its other eye. Stop the shouting, no more techno music. My head feels like the Grinch's heart crushed between two Whoville cymbals. And please forgive the terrible things I whispered in your ear during your spontaneous 7-minute coma. No one will love us like we love ourselves tonight. Lionel Richie said that. Or was it Whitney? All right, I'll just end on another short piece here. And thank you very much for having me tonight. It's been a good evening. Fletcher's Field. And now the lark and starling sing. Now refraction comes through rain. A child runs to find me across the playground in Fletcher's Field. If I climb this ladder, reach down cavalier from the roof to paint the eaves, if I fall, could I make another life, gray streak in my hair? All these years I have lived as if a thought could sink me like a paper boat, and have tried to trace back the creek that carried me out to sea. Thank you.